We're back with Robin. Robin joins us again,
The chief Austrian.
the
What a
chief
nice,
Austrian of MicroSeed.
what a nice intro music. I love it.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's like every time, like it's like a nice groovy music.
Yeah.
Really nice.
The little
Yeah.
neck, little chicken neck going.
Yep.
With my
Put that
turkey
together
neck.
nice. I've just been, once I had that, that's like, I just stick to it. I've used that for,
Like a dog
I
with
don't
a
know,
bone.
a year now.
Just
Oh, I love it. Bitcoin strategy and strategy. We've been talking strategy a little bit this week, and Saylor had posted a whole bunch of really interesting things that, in the past I was like, I'm still getting my mind around it all, and I don't quite understand how it all fits together. And then he's been putting some posts out that kind of describe a monetary system with layers and how different players play in different layers, and the layers interact with each other. And it's just super fascinating. You could say I'm a based BTC maxi and it's just Bitcoin. And that's not how the monetary system at large really works. There's a way that Bitcoin aligns things and changes things, but
It's got nothing to do with money, though.
there's a lot more going on in terms of money. Anyway, let's talk about money and strategy
Well,
stuff.
I mean, I actually love that you started with those strategy posts and Saylor because, like, since BTC Prague, he's been putting out those big slides, right? Like, and his speech at Prague, I thought was great because
it was interesting.
well, I would say more than interesting. I would say he's the first person that's actually confronted Bitcoiners with reality in terms of what money is, right? Like he's been doing a really, really good job of this thing, where he says, look, man, when you talk to an Austrian economist or a gold bug or a commodity theory person, hey, good morning, Johnny. When you talk to these people, they will say Bitcoin is money because scarce divisible. That's it, basically, right? Scarce
Bitcoin is
divisible.
money.
Bitcoin is money because it's scarce divisible asset. It's the hardest money ever, quote unquote. And he says that represents about 1% of the entire world population that thinks money works like that. The other 99% look at it this way, right? And he says if Bitcoin is money or not is an academic question. And he says that very clearly. He says it outright. And I go, you are 100% correct, sir. The question of what is money is an academic question. It's not a vibes thing. It's not I think because it's not a material conclusion. It's an academic discussion. And it's a deeply layered academic discussion. So when he puts these slides out, I'm just going like, hell yeah, brother. The most interesting thing for me this week, though, was like I started reading Brett's book, The Belief Machine. What's his last name? Brett
Hansen.
Hansen. There we go. Yeah. And in reading this, he's touching on these topics that I think anybody that reads that book, the first thing they'll do is they'll read it and they'll think it's about somebody else. And the most compelling, most interesting thing about that book is it is about the person reading it. And I don't think anybody reading it will ever grok that. I really don't. Like, I don't think it's possible. I think The Belief Machine is the most red pill thing you could ever be confronted with. And I think most people will choose the blue pill. So I bring that up because when people see the strategy posts, you can see, just go to any comment section right after, and it's all littered with, this guy has lost the plot. He doesn't understand Bitcoin. He doesn't understand money. Bitcoin is the hardest thing. Blah. They've got all these slogans and narratives, and they reflexively, impulsively, and without thought reject every single word that guy is saying. They can't hear a single word that guy is saying. They can't even read the words he is saying. They literally, the second it touches their face, it touches their ear, that triggers something that goes straight to their limbic system. That triggers something that makes them go, this is challenging my identity. This is challenging my competency. This is challenging my authority. This is challenging me as a human being. I must now become defensive, and they have a physiological, emotional reaction, and then they can no longer process information from that second forward. Exactly. And that happens the instant they see the words. Bitcoin is digital capital, and they're shut off immediately. They just go, nope, 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 nope. Can't hear a word after that. And it's sort of fascinating because that, to me, it doesn't just map to Bitcoiners. It literally maps across society, which is why I say this is like the most red pill thing you'll ever be confronted with. Because if you just think about the red pill scenario, I think most people, they go, oh, if I was Neo and I was sitting in that chair and Morpheus offered me the pills, I would take the red pill. I go, no, you wouldn't. In fact, you would never be in the position to be offered the 2 pills. And the second you got there, your overpowering instinct would be to take the blue pill every fucking time, because you wouldn't even be able to see the red pill. It wouldn't even make sense to you. You wouldn't even be able to resolve it, because it challenges too much about you as a human being to acknowledge that you don't know shit. And that's basically what this thing is saying, is like, if you feel that emotional reaction, that the second you feel that little heat, that little tingle in your scalp, that little adrenaline rush when someone challenges something you believe, or challenges something you think about yourself, or challenges you in any way, shape, or form, you're already blue pilled. You're already deeply blue pilled. And I don't think there's a way back for 99% of people on planet Earth. So it's been a fascinating confluence to watch these 2 things emerge simultaneously in my sort of frame of social media. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I love Brett's book, dude. It's like unfucking believably good.
I was more than pleasantly surprised. I was super impressed with the book in terms of what I went into it presuming I might be learning about, and what I actually ended up reading early on. It was like, oh, these are the kinds of things like you and I would talk about years ago, about confronting your own sort of belief machines, these contraptions you hold in your head about how you think and how you think about things. And so I had Brett on my podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, so his book had kind of just come out. I reached Elizabeth with Bitcoiner Talent, actually said, hey, Brett's book is out, you should have him on. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. But I reached out to him. Brett was like, yeah, let's go. So I had him on, and it was right during on the aftermath of, cold card stuff. The fork had just happened, I think. Anyway, and what we were talking about mirrors so much about the churn going on Bitcoin, Twitter, and all these things around people's beliefs and how, what is money? What is Bitcoin? Things have to fit the way I think. And then when we orange pill or talk about all these things, we find ourselves confronted with people who either ask different asymmetric questions or push back, and we have to decide how and why we actually think what we think, and how malleable is your own mental flexibility versus, no, I've thought about this and this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like many people that I interact with, I catch myself doing this, but like particularly at work with coworkers or other people in a fiat world, man, people have their sense about what reality is, how things work. I know how things work. And then we collide and argue. And it's just, I love thinking about this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's super fascinating.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of those strategy tweets and stuff? I mean, or the Saylor tweets, I should say, not necessarily the strategy stuff.
It's really complicated, because like he lays out something that comes to reality within the next 10, 20, 30 years. And he thinks very far ahead. I'm really focused on strategy, on just like what they're doing right now. And I think they are laying the groundworks for something very big that has the potential to be something very big with Stretch and with him having the most amount of Bitcoin. I try to make it always as simple as possible. And the thing that strategy pilled me the first time, because I was against strategy, is people actually brought it up to me the last 2 weeks. They showed me tweets of my own where I said in July last year, like not that long ago, strategy is a distraction. I think it's a net negative for Bitcoin adoption and all of those things. I said all the things that have now thrown in my way on tweets or like in my comment section. But I believe that I believed at that time that that was true. But what I didn't do was the research, and that's I think the gap that people have. They have their mindset, they have their understanding what Bitcoin is, what money is, how the world should work. And then there's reality coming in there, and you have to study reality to actually understand that. And what flipped me, or like what made me go down the strategy rabbit hole, was one very simple sentence that I think Chase said on my podcast, I think November or December. He said to me, if you are so hard on Bitcoin being the most valuable, best asset on planet Earth, wouldn't it be logical that the company with the most amount of Bitcoin is also the most valuable company and has a very central role in this future world? And I'm like, let me see what the market cap currently of strategy is. And it was, I don't know what it was at the time. I think currently it's like 40, 50 billion or something like that. And I'm like, okay, what's the most valuable company right now worth? And I'm like, okay, $5.2 trillion.
Yeah.
That's about I don't know, 110, 120x bigger than strategy is, roughly. Like the numbers obviously change quickly these days.
Yeah.
And so that's like, okay, that's really interesting. And then I started to research, what are they trying to do? Listen to all the earnings calls, really paid attention. What is Fong Li saying? What is Saylor saying? What are they trying to build? And because before I thought, yeah, it's just they have some leverage and they have some Bitcoin and they outperform Bitcoin a little bit in the bull run if they're not collapsing in the bear market. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like I get more risk for not that much more return. And so it was not that compelling for me. But with that accumulation machine, with Stretch, with digital credit, with all the things that they are potentially building on top of digital credit, and this SDRC whatever token is just like one very small example that people get now hang on because they now think, oh yeah, he's a shitcoiner now. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. And he was actually asked in the last not earnings call, in the investor Q&A with the Natalie Brunel, he was asked about that token, and he clearly said that's the first small example of many more to come. That's an ecosystem that will be built on top of Stretch. And I think people always understood, and hopefully always understood, that Bitcoin is not MasterCard. I think that's a very stupid assumption to compare like Bitcoin to
Careful.
what MasterCard and Visa
Careful,
are doing.
you're drifting into Bitcoin is not money.
But like most people, I hope, always understood that we can only scale Bitcoin in layers. Like even if you think like Bitcoin is money, I think nobody really believed that we will make a base layer transaction at Starbucks. I think that was all, like, hopefully this was always very clear to people. And so like, then the question is like, how do we scale? Is the second layer Lightning? Is the second layer is the third layer on top of Lightning something like digital credit? Or is digital credit winning more than Lightning? Or is there something completely else coming? I think those are really interesting conversations and topics, and I think there will be many different ways of how Bitcoin scales. And so just saying like, oh yeah, Bitcoin is money and we just use that, I think it's naive. I think it's like the world is very complex, and
you just gave the world a clippable moment.
But yeah, that's my view. And like the world is more complex than it sometimes seems to be.
I agree, dude. Like I love the way you frame that, because that's I think spot on. But that's sort of the thing I was griping about last week and the week before and the week before that, and probably for the last couple of years, is like people have a slogan: Bitcoin is money. It's the soundest money ever. It's the hardest money ever. Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is money. Right? It's like it's repeated ad nauseum. I don't think anyone's ever bothered to stop for more than 10 seconds to think about what that means. So what that is a shorthand for is scarce divisible, therefore good. That's it, right? No other thought beyond that in any depth, right? So, but what you just said right there, like Are you going to be able to get your Starbucks on the base chain? Go, clearly no. Like that's not even a controversial thing to suggest. Like Bitcoin will never scale to base layer transactions at global monetary velocity. Like it's impossible by the
I mean, that's
very
the
design
vision
of the
of
thing.
Bitcoin Cash. I mean, like if you want
Right.
that, you can be on Bitcoin
want
Cash and
Bitcoin
you can
Cash,
do
yeah.
that.
Exactly. And even then, I don't think it scales appropriately. Like I think it runs into, and it's very centralized at that point, right? So if you move to layer twos and go, well, it's still Bitcoin because we're settling on Bitcoin, I go, that's not Bitcoin though. You're not transacting in Bitcoin on the base layer. You're transacting through intermediaries, which is exactly what you're doing if you convert it to fiat. So what are you talking about? Well, it's different because it's, run by plebs or something like that. I go, so you have fewer guardrails. Like when that lightning channel closes and they just take your $1,500 and you don't know where it went, who do you call? I don't even know where the transaction routed. I don't even know what infrastructure I was relying on. I thought my infrastructure was Strike Wallet or Cake Wallet or whatever fucking wallet hardware you're using. I go, but so is that is somehow still Bitcoin? Like, well, I mean, it is because it's got Bitcoin in the name and it's got Bitcoin in the chain, therefore Bitcoin. I go, that's not Bitcoin. Like if I said that about like some shitcoin that was built on top of Bitcoin, you go, it's a shitcoin, blah, 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 blah. I go, okay, so how is this different? It's a second layer built on top. I'm just peddling my shitcoin that says you can do transaction velocity with my shitcoin. Use my shitcoin instead. That's not real Bitcoin. Oh, but if I abstract that layer to Lightning, then suddenly it is Bitcoin because the actual units that are moving around are denominated in Bitcoin. It's going to ultimately settle in Bitcoin. But how is that different than me running a side chain that's called Bitcoin 2? And we issue Bitcoin 2 tokens that you can use to trade amongst yourselves and, buy your coffees with and whatnot. And then we settle all those transactions on the base layer. Like, why is that different? And I don't think anyone's got a good answer for that. They'll twist themselves into a pretzel about like why it's different, about, because, this and that. But all those layer 2 solutions involve other people and software stacks and trust that you don't have with the base layer transaction, right? So it's not Bitcoin, like in any pure sense. It's a secondary intermediation between you and Bitcoin and the merchant that you're dealing with or whatever you're talking about. So it's really fascinating to me to watch the people push back, exactly like you were saying, Robin, where they just go, they treat Bitcoin as money as axiomatic, and then any challenge to that is met with just immediate hostility. Like it hits their face, it goes into their ear, it bypasses the frontal cortex and goes straight to the limbic system and goes, this guy's attacking me, my identity, who I am, who I think I am, my level of competence, my ability to understand things. Fuck this guy. I'm angry now and I don't know why, and I got to defend this to the death. And they just start blurting out dumb shit where it's just like, you're not even, you can't even hear anything I'm saying anymore. You're just gone. Like you're deep into the matrix now. You're deep into the blue pill land, and you're just going to stay there because you cannot possibly conceive of taking the red pill. It's really fascinating thing to watch, man. So I don't know. What do you think, Fritz?
I think a lot of plebs run into this when you're learning how to orange pill, when you're super excited about Bitcoin and you start having those conversations and you run into family who just maybe they're nice about it or not, but they don't understand things. So you start going down your educational, you think, you're being honest about trying to educate and get people interested in the capabilities and all the good based things. And then they ask questions that are outside, they're in the fiat world, they're coming from a totally different frame, and they presume a lot about trust and how counterparties work in banks and all the things. So yeah, they're going to ask questions about that. And you end up running into these walls in various ways and then having to reconcile in yourself how you translate all the slogans we have, all the based beliefs we have in Bitcoin, the mottos and the mantras and the things, and they don't translate at all. They're just like, yeah, but,
Right.
And then if you play that out as a Bitcoiner, are these slogans really completely true? And if so, are you living that, or are you kind of LARPing? And you realize I can say these things, but am I on a Bitcoin standard in some way? And am I actually using it fully that way? No. I mean, I try, I'm learning, I'm doing some things that way, but that's not our lives either. And so then you imagine actually living your life as a Bitcoiner in a fiat world, and the big hyper Bitcoinization, Bitcoin standard shift has not happened.
And never will. It can't.
And will it someday? I mean,
can't.
we're not there. And so,
well,
and
that's
maybe
what
never.
I'm saying is like right here. I say that to you right now out loud. I go, it can't. And I don't think you can hear that. I honestly don't. I think you hear that and you go, yeah, but limbic system, boop. Like, I don't think it filters where you go, I don't think there's a moment where you'll stop and process and go, Bitcoin can't scale to hyper Bitcoinization and the Bitcoin standard. It can't do it. And I don't think Bitcoiners can hear that because it just entangles too much. And, you know, that's the thing is like, I could be wrong, of course, right? There could be all kinds of holes in my theory, my understanding of money too, right? But the bigger point is like, if someone has a legitimate challenge to my theory, there's not the, I got to defend my theory. It's like, well, wait a minute. You got to think about it. You have to keep it in the frontal cortex. So like when Saylor says, because he's basically saying that Bitcoin will never scale to money. You guys don't understand money. What you think is money is a very, very narrow frame that is only held by a very, very tiny percentage of the population. And I can say with a high degree of certainty that narrow frame, the Austrian school and commodity theory and all that kind of stuff, is highly contested. And in many circles is considered disproven. So you go, okay, I'm relying for my life financial decisions upon an idea that was first put forth into the world in 1870 and hasn't really been modified since. So therefore, I can safely plan my family's financial future, my financial future, and project the financial future of the globe based on a contested theory from 1870. I go, that doesn't just, if you just say that out loud, it doesn't make sense. But that's what I'm talking about. When you say that, you go, I'm trying to pill people and this and that and the other thing. I go, Bitcoin can't do that. I don't think Bitcoiners can hear that. Like those words hit them and they go, nope. Does not.
I have something maybe interesting for you. To think about. There's this thesis called the loud minority thesis, and I think that there is a very small loud minority in Bitcoin that cares about Bitcoin as money or currency or whatever you want to call it, just like you using as like exchange at Starbucks. Right. And most people in Bitcoin don't care about that. It's like a very small subset of group of people. We fall in this trap that we think if there's a lot of people interacting on like Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, and we just read their comments, that this is the majority. I had a great video yesterday with Samson Mao, and I read some stats to show what I really mean with the loud minority. Because if you read through the comment section through that Samson Mao video, you think that I'm an idiot, that Samson Mao is an idiot, and that we all scammers and that we are shitcoiners. Right, yeah. That's basically the summary. There's of course also positive things in there, but there's about there's 57 comments in that whole video, and about like 45-ish are quite negative. Right. But and that's what we read, that's what we think is the truth. But then next to those 57 comments, there are 531 likes. So it's like, okay, 10%, there are 40 people, the loud minority that complains, that like shouts, that like triggered something in them. But there's like 531 people at least that really liked it. And there's probably a lot of other people that just like enjoyed it, liked it, and didn't interact with the video at all, because the video up until now has 17,800 views. So it's like there's about 18,000 people watching that did not complain. 40 people of those 18,000 complained, and that's what we kind of see. And I think that's overall how Bitcoin sphere is also. There's those 40 very loud people that are very adamant about what they think Bitcoin is and should be. And it's good that they're there, honestly, because the more different groups we have in Bitcoin, the more decentralized actually it stays. So if we have many different groups that fight for many different ways, it like stays in the middle. It stays where it is, and changes are harder to do. But this is not the majority, because what is the majority in Bitcoin? It's some guy holding like $2,000 in a Coinbase account.
Right.
That's for you the average Bitcoiner, and it represents no material amount of his net worth. He sees it as an investment, speculative thing that might go up a lot or completely loses all its value.
Right.
Like that's how the majority of people that hold Bitcoin see Bitcoin.
Right.
And there's like this 1% that like we can call the people that go to conferences and meetups and go on podcasts and a little bit more active. They really care about Bitcoin, and that's maybe, let's say, 200,000 people. I don't know how big this group of people is, but I wouldn't go, like, if it's really big, it might be 300,000, but I don't think too much more, because how many nodes, how many people are there that run nodes, how many people are there that do self-custody properly, all of those things. So it's
not many.
Yeah, and so it's like we listen to like 40 people, but there are like millions and millions of people that use Bitcoin not as money, but as digital capital.
Right. A speculative asset, an asset at core, right? Because that's what capital means in his chart, in Saylor's chart. It's an asset. What do you mean by capital in a digital world? Well, Bitcoin is digital capital. What makes it capital? Well, you can exclude others from it, and it has value independent of your assessment. So those are the two things, and you can dispose of it without permission, which is a 1-2-3 punch that I think is pretty powerful and gets subsumed into the discourse around 160-year-old theory that doesn't really stand up to intense scrutiny, right? So thanks, Johnny. I love the big monkey want Lambo. Me too. Ooh, Lambo, win Lambo.
I know. Down in there, we all want that number go up. I think if over the years, Daniel, if you and I hadn't had all these conversations, had our debates or even disagreements, I would probably by nature be in a camp of like, well, there's Bitcoin and then there's shitcoin and fiat, and they're just wholly separate. And so I'm a Bitcoiner, so I would be walled off from saying, oh, something not Bitcoin, well, then it's shitcoin. Right. And your book speaks a lot to that. Your up and coming book coming that just
someday.
I have a question for you, Fritz. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Do you care
Thanks,
in what currency form you're spending your money? Like, do you care if like it's like how you exchange financial energy?
For me personally, honestly, no. It's like whatever works.
It's an honest answer. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, in life,
that's the thing, because someone recently asked me on an interview, like, oh, like, how do you think about the US dollar maybe getting with stable coins to Europe, and maybe US dollar being more dominant in Europe? And I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
Like if we have the US dollar, the euro, or like whatever you call it, I'm not gonna store my wealth in it. Right. I'm not gonna put 100% of my net worth in the US dollar or the euro or the yen, like, because I think it's a horrible store of value.
Right.
But if I exchange my 10% of my Bitcoin stack to some kind of like US dollar stable coin euro digital thing, and then I can spend it on like a nice holiday or go somewhere nice, or I don't know, get a Lambo or whatever it is. I don't care what the medium of exchange is, as long as I can do it. So as long as I have the right, and as long as I have the ability to exchange my Bitcoin, my stocks, my whatever, to something physical good, service, or whatever I want. And that's why I was like, wanted to ask you, like, if people actually care about that function of money, or just like transacting. I don't care what we call that, what this is.
Yeah, I think as an early Bitcoiner, I was wanting Bitcoin to be everything and anything and everything for everyone in every way. And so then it was like, well, you can just make layers on it and that'll be like the same. It's still Bitcoin, but at least it's working on and with Bitcoin. But it would be like similarly, I started more and more. I mean, in real life, you have this divide behind what's your savings and your capital and your long-term store of everything. And then you're like hot wallet and day-to-day interaction and exchange medium. And they're separate things. Now you can connect them or move back and forth between them, sure. But I treat them in my head just completely separate things. And so more and more, like if Bitcoin is going to become my personal sense of capital, but day to day, most of all of my interaction in life is something else. Do I need it to be directly connected to my capital? Hell no.
Right.
So now if the bank were to say, oh, whatever you put in, say there was no Bitcoin and the bank said, your savings account is your capital and that's all is in gold. But if you ever want to if you have a checking account or cash or whatever, that is dumb coin. And we just use dumb coin, but everybody uses dumb coin. I'd be like, okay, in my head, I understand that to live in life, I use dumb coin and it works and it's fine. And I know it melts, but it works today and it'll work tomorrow and it'll work well enough next week. And it's shit, but it works. But in my head, I also know that separately, I have a savings account and I just think about that completely different. So my heart, and when I think of the future and my family and my goals and retirement or whatever, all that's going to be the bedrock over here off to the side, sanctified and separate.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm buying coffee to books to a car, do I need or care or want that to be my base layer? No,
Right.
because my life day to day is life separate from my long-term visions of future. And so, yeah. So, and then the way the Bitcoin protocol works, then trying to force the base layer to function day to day, you get into these mental gymnastics of like, no, it's still Bitcoin. And it's like, is it though?
Right.
Does that work really? And then is the system going to be that? No. So,
yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it. Sorry, keep going, dude.
Oh yeah. So, well, your book, having read your book and versions of it repeatedly, as it started to distill in my mind, I started to realize more, breaking away from my old frame of there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. And someday it should all be Bitcoin. Right. I was starting to see the system itself as its own churning giant monster. And that monster, it kind of harkens to the chartalist theory of money as a whip, And I was starting to realize more, oh, I get it. Like, it's not like, oh, the system's going to bend the knee and just have to just change without some sort of giant breakdown or whatever else. And I realized, oh, the system's going to system. Fiat's going to fiat. When I talk to normies, 99.9% of everyone, they're not really going to Bitcoin.
Right.
So the reality being, I will Bitcoin. Anyone I can get to also Bitcoin, I would like to. But day to day, are they going to Bitcoin? No, they're going to. Yeah.
It's it's like a utopian world. It's like, I only want Bitcoin. There should not be any fiat. There should not be any shit coins. There should not be any stocks, or there should not be anything else. It's just Bitcoin. We all save in it. We all transact in it, and it's the unit of account. It's for all of the world. It's just Bitcoin, and it's just like a very I don't want to compare it now to socialist, but there's also always when I hear like people of my generation talk about communism and socialism, and they're like, yeah, but wouldn't it be nice if like there's no world hunger and like all like would be great. Would be great. But we've tried it and it works out really shitty. And so it's always amazing to describe utopian worlds. And then it's also a comparison to socialism and communism. They take out a very small example where they did it with like 100 people, with 50 people in like very small village, and there it works. And why can it not work with the 50 people also with like 8 billion people? And the same is true with the Bitcoin as money. I'm like, yeah, there's like a small regional thing where there's like 100 people and they transact mostly in Bitcoin. And why does it not work for 8 billion people? Yeah, because it's a lot easier to manage 50 people than it is to manage 8 billion people. And so I think it's like this utopian world description of like, sure, it would be great if there is no spam on the blockchain. Sure, it would be great if there's no world hunger, there's nobody greedy and getting on the power and does those things. And it would be also great if we all like only have one money, and the money is the stock portfolio, and the money is the mean of exchange, the money is everything, and it's all just Bitcoin. Like, wouldn't it be amazing? But I don't think the world is that simple.
I mean, you're in like Santa Claus land, right? Like, you just kind of go, well, I want to keep believing in Santa Claus. I don't care if it's not possible. I like Santa Claus. I like the way Santa Claus sounds. So I'm just going to keep hanging on to Santa Claus. But I mean, that's kind of the thing. And that's why I'm so like, I always get a little prickly around when people start saying, you know, like, because they just say it as if like this answers every question. Bitcoin is money. All questions answered. It's like, well, but it doesn't answer all my questions. And if I start asking those questions, and people get really offended, they get mad, they get angry. And that's why Brett's book has been so huge for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, because I just can't, like, there's nothing I can say or do. There's no possible way I can get past someone's identity, something that they've anchored their sense of self onto, and then give them an academic argument. It'll never land. Like, so the only options I have are to say something out loud that offends people and makes them go, oh, and label me, or I find this little tiny sliver of human beings that can actually hear information that they've not already baked in. And you know what's weird about it is, like, I've had 2 recent conversations in my family, and this kind of tells you how deep this runs, because it's not just Bitcoiners. I'm kind of picking on Bitcoiners right now, or quote unquote Bitcoiners. But like, my stepdad, who's 80 some years old, walked in, and I said, well, you know, and both conversations started with, well, our company is kind of like a Bitcoin based business. And in both conversations, people came at me with these really hard, firm opinions about Bitcoin. They said, oh, well, Bitcoin is this and Bitcoin is that. But it's all this just nonsense shit, right? It's just a bunch of like, hey, bye, Robin. It's a bunch of like stuff where you go, you've heard these sort of complaints, but they're just like fiat talking points, right? There's no actual critical understanding of Bitcoin in any meaningful sense. And in both cases, I literally just said out loud, I said, I don't think you really understand Bitcoin. I don't think you know anything about Bitcoin. And oh my God, dude, like, the reaction from these people was just like, they were immediate, like, enraged, like, well, I understand Bitcoin. How can you say I don't? And I'm like, what the fuck just happened here? Like, you clearly don't understand Bitcoin at all, like, in any meaningful way. And they got deeply offended. But it's that same thing. They got information they didn't like hearing. It somehow triggered some sort of deep protective impulse. It says, this person is attacking me now. They're attacking my competency. They're attacking my ability to understand things, despite the fact that there's overwhelming evidence right in front of me that they have not spent any time thinking about this problem beyond they heard something on Fox News or they read something on a blog, and they've developed an opinion about it based on this like little tangential contact with some information that resonated with them in the moment. And now that I've challenged that, I go, you don't understand Bitcoin. I don't think you know anything about Bitcoin. Like, it wasn't like, well, you know what? I guess actually I never really have looked into it. I mean, I read this article once on Wired, and that's kind of all I know about it. But it never occurred to me that I had formed such strong opinions based on such minor evidence. Didn't happen. Like, it was just straight to like anger, rage. I literally had one guy get up and leave the table because he was going on and on and on about Bitcoin this and Bitcoin. It's a Ponzi. It's a scam. There's nothing backing it. And like all the normal shit that you've heard 10,000 times. And that's all academic answers, right? You go, well, you have to think about it this way because of this, and there's reasons for why this sounds this way, and I can see why you think that, but if you really look at it this way, there's this other nuanced thing to think about, and this is why this is important, and this, but you can't have that conversation because no one has the patience for it, right? So, and you would just end up looking defensive and weird anyway. Like just by invoking that kind of stuff, people are just like, oh, well, you seem to spend a lot of time trying to defend this. I just made a simple statement. It's just a Ponzi coin. How come you can't just answer why it's not a Ponzi coin? It's like, because it's a deeply nuanced answer to a really dumb binary question, right? But people can't hear that. So the fascinating thing was like these two people in my family reacted very negatively and with outright anger about something that they clearly have no business knowing anything about, because they haven't done any work in that at all. But I've noticed this across domains. Like I do jujitsu, or I used to. We'd get new people in the gym, some guy, big, beefy, whatever, and I'd like tap the guy out in like 2 seconds. And the guy would get infuriated, dude. Just like, well, I mean, it's just because, and it's like, dude,
that's not supposed to happen.
Do you realize you have spent 0 time studying this discipline? Like there's no reason for you to be good at it. There's no reason why you should be able to withstand a little bit of pressure or whatever. Like you don't know what you're doing. You have no technique. You have no understanding of this at all. But their ego is offended. I take people golfing. They go, well, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. It's like, you are nowhere in the neighborhood of good. You have no idea what you're doing. You are literally completely clueless because you've never played this very high skill, very high achieving, very difficult physical task. You've spent no time devoted to that. So the fact that you hit the ball a couple of times doesn't mean you know how to play golf, right? And people get bent. I've seen people snapping clubs on the golf course. I'm like, dude, you literally hit golf balls once a month. You've never taken a lesson and you're snapping your golf club because you just shanked a ball off in the weeds. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, where is that ego reaction coming? Because they've already pinned their personality to their skill.
Yep.
So it's the same thing with Bitcoin conversations, same thing, even if you're talking to Bitcoiners. Like, I'm kind of curious. I want to talk to Brett because I want to say, what if your thesis about Bitcoin is wrong? And I don't think people can, they just go, wait, no. I spent my 10,000 hours or my 100 hours or whatever it is studying. I go, yeah, but it's possible that you're still missing something deeper, right? Like, and if you challenge that, if I said to you, Fritz, or if I said to you, Robin, I go, Robin, Fritz, I don't think you guys really understand Bitcoin very well. And I said it seriously. And I think the first impulse, the first thing would be, and probably both of you, probably anybody I say that to that's into Bitcoin, they would feel that adrenaline. But they're not going to hear, I don't think you understand this. I don't think there'll ever be a pause where they kind of go, maybe I don't understand Bitcoin as well as I think I do. That's interesting. I never really considered that. Like, that's not going to happen. It's just going to be an immediate, yes, I do. I read the book. I did the book. But how could you say you don't understand? Like, it's just going to be like,
hey, I love
Cousin's here.
I love it. Hey,
Brett, you're here.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Sort of my curiosity, because it's like, how rigid are people in that sphere when they hear this stuff? Are they like rigidly like, are they going to immediately react? Or are they going to pause? Are they going to pump the brakes? Or are they going to listen? And if you weren't here earlier, I love your book, man. I was just telling these guys earlier, I legitimately think this is the most red pill book you could possibly encounter in life. Like, your ability to absorb that information and then take it in, actually ingest it, read it carefully and thoughtfully and thoroughly, and then take it in, I think would be the actual closest approximation to a true red pill that anybody will ever experience in their life. So, outstanding book. I've only gotten through chapter 6. I can't wait to finish it, but thank you for joining. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's putting some very thoughtful writing and very coherent writing to a topic I've been struggling with for 20 years. So thank you.
Yeah. And as a Bitcoiner, we run into this so often, so easily. And then you find yourself struggling with yourself, reconciling what you really fully understand, even technically about Bitcoin, but 2, how that translates to all kinds of everybody and their responses. And then when they respond to you, how you handle them, and what are we needing out of them or needing ourselves. But no, I already know stuff. And so if you were to challenge me on, so in the past, if you would have said, I don't think you really understand Bitcoin, I'd be like, what are you talking about, man? We talk about it all the time. We both do.
Right.
I do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
now, and I saw a thing, I can't remember, it's been a while, but even last year, somebody had said, like, if you think you really understand Bitcoin, just know that you don't. There's more. There's always like, there are so many little rabbit holes and aspects and angles and parts to it. And then there's Bitcoin and a system and how that integrates. And so you might understand Bitcoin, but you don't understand how the integration with the social layer or a banking world or a monetary system actually plays out. And yeah, it's like, now I think I would say, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, there are areas of Bitcoin that I know, but I also realize I am always learning and find myself surprised, even with Saylor stuff. It's kind of like, huh, like I realize I don't understand things about some of that, or actually I'm intrigued, but apparently I need to learn more because Bitcoin's not going to run everything.
Yeah.
From tip to tail.
It's such a deep topic, and that's that's partly what I love about Bitcoin, because people go, oh, I went down the rabbit hole, I got orange pilled, I did this, and they start challenging some assumptions, and I go, healthy, right? Oh, you're welcome, dude. Like, I actually regret, I was thinking about this while I was reading the book. Like, we've had some interaction at some of these conferences, but not to a lot of depth, right? Just sort of passing, like, hey, how's it going? And,
in Vegas.
Yeah, right. And I go, man, I wish I had this book before then, because I would have spent a lot more time just like hanging out and bullshitting with you, man. Because I think it's such a fascinating book. And I'll tell you what, like, if this sounds like false praise or just like I'm just kind of gushing for no reason, like, you can go look at my Twitter feed. You can go look at any public statement I made. We've been doing this podcast for 2 years. You will never, not once in any of that time, hear any recommendation like this ever for any piece of work. And I've read deeply over the last 2 years. I've read some of the great monetary thought pieces. I've read a ton of like world history, and no one, like James C. Scott, I go, I don't give James C. Scott as much praise as I'm giving your book right now. And I think his books have been enormously influential on my worldview. Right. So yeah, it's not small praise. And it's just like, I can't wait to just talk about your book all the time, dude. I swear to God, like this is such a great sort of important piece of work that I think has been left untouched and unexplored or underexplored especially for this particular audience, Bitcoiners in general and things like that.
I can vouch for that, because you read a lot. You've read some big books and in depth, all the big books we know, and have your opinions. We dissect them and deconstruct them and disagree with the premises and things like that. And so this is like the first Bitcoin oriented type in thinking oriented book that we've read, where it's like, wow, this is right. This is good. Yeah. This is red pilling. This is on target. I was beyond pleasantly surprised. I was floored by the quality and the nature from the get-go of what it was confronting in myself, of how I think and how others think and how I have orange pilled, and talked about Bitcoin. Yeah.
And hey, Johnny, I hope you're healing up. Like, he made a comment to Brett, like, hey, could you come swing by and read the book? I think it'll be probably a magical fucking intervention there. But Johnny, for those who don't know, has been kind of laid up. He had some, some reconstructive work being done recently. So I hope you're healing up well, sir. I hope you're getting back on your feet. And I would volunteer to come by and read the book to you, but I got to be packing MicroSeeds.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, you haven't seen this book, have you, Robin?
I know. I have never heard about the book even before you guys mentioned it, like literally right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully you'll get an audio version out of this from somebody. Like Walker seems like he does a pretty good job narrating. I'm a huge fan of Guy Swan's narration. Like, I think he did Broken Money for Lynn Alden. I thought his reading was great. I don't know how much they cost or what that takes or anything like that, but but if you get
I'll narrate it, I'll get my radio voice on and read it like Walker.
Well, that's why I like Guy Swan, dude, because he doesn't add that affect to it. He just has that sort of nice natural cadence that I think is really effective as an audiobook reader. But anyway,
this is Kermit the Frog. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm a lick machine.
exactly. But yeah, man.
It'll be
So
fun.
when it comes to like discussions about Bitcoin as money and whatnot, I go, man, like I hate seeing people reflexively reach to slogans when there's a deep topic underneath it, right? But
And
yeah,
like
man.
Brett says, Bitcoin is, for many people, it's like a forge of like, oh, it's why and how I think now. He says it's like a mirror. Bitcoin is like a mirror, and it forces you to confront things in yourself about your own presumptions and things. So, yeah.
They straighten out your frame. That's good, man. You don't want to be kind of listing down the road. You want to be walking straight and tall. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
Both legs the same length.
So, I mean, but getting back to the strategy stuff, like that's why it's troubling to me, because like you, Robin, I never even looked at strategy, despite like you're my business partner, you're my friend, you're talking about it a lot. And I'm just kind of like, I don't care. Right. Like I just didn't think about it until there was some post you made. And I was like, oh yeah, kind of, but it was Saylor's keynote at Prague that I was just like, okay, I totally get where this guy's coming from. And he went to great lengths during that presentation to go, this is what the monetary system actually looks like. This is what the monetary system actually functions like. This is how 99.99% of the population deals with money, not, hard limit and, whatever what is it? Scarce and divisible, right? Like that's not enough to make a monetary order, full stop. So, and especially 10-minute transaction times, like that's never going to work, right? Like you just can't scale a monetary order on a 10-minute finality block, right? We add 7 transactions per second. That just doesn't work. So watching Saylor lay that stuff out, but that combination of those two things led me to start looking at strategy. And now I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm fuck yeah. But I'll pivot on a dime, dude. Like I have zero, like identity associated with any of this stuff, especially when it comes to money, right? Like it's such an easy pivot to just go, hell yeah, I'm going to dump some fucking coin in that. Why not? Because it makes sense, if you start breaking it.
And it was fun, honestly, to see at the conference, because I think I talked with you right before, where you kind of was even dunking on Saylor, and then we were seeing the presentation, and I was talking with you a lot before that already about money and all of those things, and I listened to the presentation, and I was like, I think Daniel might actually like that stuff a lot, because he was explaining how complex the whole system is, and how all the different worldviews look at money, and how so many different, and I listened to that and I was like, Daniel will like it, and most Bitcoiners will be bored right now and have no clue what he's talking about. And that was exactly the reaction. Like most Bitcoiners, like, I didn't like that presentation too much. Like, yeah, you like it when he talks about his Bitcoin price model and how he thinks it goes to like $21 million dollars in 21 years at the pace of 21% per year. If he thinks about he does that, but if he lays out the financial system in front of you, how it works and how complex the whole thing is, you're like, oh, that's boring. Like, what is it? Like, so people, and when I listened to this, I was like, I'm kind of interested in that, and I was like, Daniel will be hyped about that, and then I asked you about like what do you think about it, and you were super stoked about it.
Yeah. Well, I remember because we were sitting like 2 couches apart, because me and Fritz were sitting on that one couch, and you're kind of back, a couple couches behind us. But I mean, it was a packed arena, but he's still making those little like slide decks and stuff, and he's still putting them out on Twitter, and people are just like, lost the plot, doesn't understand money. I'm like, how can you say this guy is sitting on a $50 billion company and you're saying he doesn't understand money, but you do? Like, you who's like still working at fucking Kroger and you're stocking shelves at night and you're barely getting by and you're scraping away your $50 DCA buy into Bitcoin. You go, I understand money on a deep level. This Saylor guy is a baboon. It's like, that's kind of a stretch, don't you think? Just like, without knowing anything else about anybody, you just kind of go, it doesn't sound quite right.
And I think Saylor went through his big humbling phase. I think a lot of people are not aware of like strategy before Bitcoin and how he went up in the like 2000s, beginning of 2000s, and like,
dude.
Yeah, and then like just like crashed down, and it took, I think, like
20
what was
years.
it, 20 years till like basically the Bitcoin thing to recover from the top. And so I think he learned how a little bit to be humble, to be a deep thinker about stuff, not just to like write on things. And you can really see it in him. Like he has this humbleness and in him, but people don't see that. People just see like, oh, like Saylor, I hate him because like he's the villain because the bear market, and like we haven't seen 100. I don't know. It's hard to see. And honestly, I don't know if I would have been strategy pilled if Bitcoin would have been in a full swing bull market. Because in the bull market, I was so like, why would I buy strategy? Like I hate it and all of those things. But then I saw something like laying down on the street and like getting kicked out December, January, when I started looking at it and start slowly DCAing into it. It was like interesting because it was such a low price and it was such a like beaten down assets, and there's always like could be interesting.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting. Anyway, what are you gonna say, Fritz?
Yeah, his talks are always super fascinating, even as I'm like getting my mind around the nature of the monetary system he's working into, which is just kind of divorced from a world that I work in with my family budget and my income and my world. So it's like, wow, this is really fascinating. There's a couple of in Prague, I saw a couple of camps where on one side you have people that are like, where's the yield coming from, to he's a bad actor and all the things. And on the other side, I did see super fanboys pedantically just like Saylor, Saylor, Saylor. And they could be like number go up bros, where it's they don't understand it either, but they see number go up, and or they know the stocks and the charts and the things, so they're thinking of it from that lens, and so they're pedantically like worshiping Saylor. And so it's kind of like, I don't trust that either, kind of the madness of these crowds. But right down the middle of it, I'm like, I'm trying to get it, but my process of getting it is also blowing my mind. So it's like, wow.
This was probably the biggest learning I've got so far from my podcast. I've had now 600 different guests, over 800 different episodes. And in one specific niche in Bitcoin. It's not like that I talk with everyone. So it's like one specific niche in Bitcoin. And so every topic I've learned does not have two sides of a coin, but like 50.
Right.
And so there's so many different angles and perspectives, which makes it sometimes hard to grasp some things, because you see like, oh, this is like that, but there's also the other side to it, and this side to it, and this side to it. Makes it also confusing in your brain. Sometimes I feel like if you're not thinking so much, the world would be simpler and easier to navigate, because you just go straight. But that's a whole nother thing. But I've really learned that to every single topic, every single viewing point, there's another 30 viewing points that you probably haven't even considered yet. And that's quite humbling.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that epistemic posture is so difficult to maintain, and I think Brett does a really good job of kind of discussing that, because it puts you into a very rare condition that most people can't tolerate. But what you just said, that thing about like, just not thinking very much probably works better. Like there's actually deep research on that exact thing. Like people that just kind of go, I don't know, that's just the way it is, and just carry on. Like they are universally happier people, right? Because they are not dealing with nuance ever. They are never dealing with epistemic uncertainty. They're always just like, yep, this is what I'm doing now. Doop, 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 doop. Something changes, they go, oh, that's the way it is now. Doop, doop, doop. Like they just, they're literally the meme. They're like, oh, did you hear like Iran just blew up and the worst chemical spill ever just happened in the Atlantic? And oh, that's interesting. So did you catch the game? Like those guys are just like, they're just, as long as they got food in their belly and a comfortable place to put their feet up, they're just like, I'm fine. So there's something to be said for it, but I don't know. I'd like to keep coming back to Brett's book, but there's stuff in there where he's talking about like this is deeply rooted in the human psyche, right? And to break free from it, I think is a near impossible task for most people on planet Earth. Like they just can't sit with that for very long. You know what I mean?
I have a interesting thing that I think often about. If Fritz, can you bring up my screen? Because there is this nuanced way of dealing with things, and you are aware of all the negative stuff. You are aware of all the positive stuff and all the things that they come your way.
Right.
And I don't know how you guys approach life, but I have approached my business life exactly like this pilot so far, and it's dangerous, but because it worked out so far.
Right.
But it's really weird because on the one hand, you see all these negative things and you see all the potential bad things that can happen, and if you really are an academic, you can fall in this trap of like just staying on one spot because you know about all the different spots and you know about all the different angles, and then you can't you don't get forward because you're not like focusing on one line.
Right.
And so I'm I try to operate on this like I want to bring that business forward. I have one very narrow vision for it, and this is exactly how it's going to be. And I'll just drive it forward as hard as I can until I get market feedback that it doesn't work anymore. But when I think about things like Bitcoin or strategy, I try to have a different hat on and try to see most sides. I mean, that's how I discovered Bitcoin. When I the first 3 years where I was aware of Bitcoin and talked about Bitcoin, I was actually against Bitcoin. I told Bitcoin is a scam because I was a Warren Buffett mindset. It has to have a cash flow. Why would I invest in an asset that does not have a cash flow? Which was an extremely stupid thing for me to even say out loud. But a lot of people still say it out loud. And so because I broke my own thing that I had in my head, I discovered Bitcoin. And I'm so confused sometimes because like, what is the main thing that I'm currently thinking about that might not be true? Like, you know what I'm thinking? Like, there's so many things that what is the thing that you currently like super, like this pilot is in there and he has no clue about like how to fly it and he will crash it. Where do I currently in where it's good that I fly it even though I have no clue about it, and what sort of things that I'm in there and I should not be in there.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, what's interesting in that is like you talked about like academics where they can get sort of paralyzed by academia, right? And I think that's actually a function of like a lack of creativity. And there's a great video lecture by Jordan Peterson. I'd recommend people look it up. He talks about, you know, creativity and stuff like that. And the thing about academia that I think is important is not that you can just evaluate all sides endlessly until you just realize there's no epistemic certainty on offer, right? Like I don't think that's the function of academia. What it does do is help narrow down what questions you need to ask, right? Because like you're saying right now, like I want to start a business and I want to do these things, right? And so if you have a very shallow understanding of the world, you're not going to ask the right questions ever, right? So you're always going to be stumbling and you might not realize it. And like the plane meme is kind of funny because like, yeah, you could potentially hop in a plane and make it leave the ground, but you're dead before you've even pushed one button, right? And you won't know that until it's way too late because you don't have enough underlying substrate to evaluate that situation with a reasonable case, right? But it's the same thing with businesses. It's the same thing. Like you can see people that start dumb businesses all the time, but arguably every single business is a dumb idea. Like if you actually break down what it takes to become successful as an entrepreneur, it's no rational person would ever do that because it's such a high risk, high reward strategy if it works, but it almost never works. Like like even just the MicroSeed, you go, how do you start a MicroSeed business? Well, I've got an idea. Oh, okay, great. How do you make it? Well, that's a whole different fucking thing. Like, how do you design it into something that can actually be produced? Okay, now you can produce it. How do you make that so it scales? Whole different problem. Okay, now how do you find someone to market it to? An entirely different problem. How do you get the money to get the capital to get, well, you can bootstrap it or you could go find an angel investor, you know, you go ask your mom to borrow some money, whatever it is. And then from there, like now we really need to scale. What do you have to do? Well, you got to go find a VC that'll put some money. Oh, okay. So what's that mean? Well, that's a whole entirely different skill set right there. And then once the VC comes in, they're going to take 95%. So you go, oh, so I just went through all this trouble to figure all this nonsense out and I only get 5% at the end of it. Yeah. And chances are good, by the time the VC comes in, the first thing they're going to do is just fire you because you're such a fucking anchor on the business. They're going to go, well, what do you know about marketing? What do you know about running a business? What do you know about, cost basis accounting and this, that, and the other thing? You go, oh, I just had this idea for this thing. Yeah, that's why you're fired. So get out, right? So the likelihood of your invention turning into a business that's a profitable model that sustains forever is like so close to zero that it's almost not worth talking about. But it's same if you started a restaurant, podcast, like, podcasting, right? If I go, hey, I'm going to start a podcast tomorrow, and I go, I think by next year I should be seeing a cash flow of about 50,000 a year. I think you'd be like, what makes you think that exactly, right? Because it would just be like such an absurd thing to say out loud. Yeah, I'm going to start a podcast this week. By next week, I should be making 50 to 75,000 a year. Year after that, I'm thinking maybe $500,000 a year. Probably by year 3, I'll be doing million plus per year on my podcast. You'd just be like, you are so out of touch with the reality. It's not even funny because it's such a narrow frame and there's such a narrow path to actually achieving some sort of escape velocity where you have some sort of meaningful, like life-changing thing happen to you. It's just a rare combination, but creative people are attracted to those kind of things, right? But it's the same thing if you're a musician, a scientist, like I think Jordan Peterson points out, like there's a thing called Price's Law. And if you don't know what that is, it's price is like the price of things apostrophe law. And if you look at like famous musicians through history, you go, who authored most of the classical pieces that you listen to today there's probably 5 composers, right? Like Mozart, Beethoven, et cetera, et cetera. And if you look at how much work they put out, you go, what percentage of their work do you actually hear to this day? Oh, about 1%, right? Like you don't hear all of Beethoven's writings. You don't hear all of his compositions. You don't hear all of Mozart's compositions. You only hear a tiny fraction from a tiny fraction of the people that have created music throughout the last 300 years. So you go, now I want to be a musician. It's like, you understand, like the greats, only 1% of the greats ever have any of their compositions heard, and that's after they put out hundreds of thousands or thousands of them each. So it's I don't know, when you start unpacking this kind of world of like how to maintain a business, or whether you should just hop in the plane and fly, or whether you should become a musician, or it's like I don't think people can fully grok like what that actually means, and I don't think they fully grok like how much survivorship bias sits on the other end of that spectrum, right? Like we always see the people that made it through. You never see the thousands of bodies in their wake, right? Like you just don't. You see the guy standing there going like, "That was so easy, man. Like I started my podcast, I did a little thing, I did some things, and next thing you know, like I'm fucking Mr. Beast. How cool is that, right?" But it's like, did you see the 4 million other people that are literally like broken bodies on the path to Mr. Beast land? It's like they never show up because no one's bragging about how hard they failed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The survivorship bias stories paint a picture like, oh, there's a path this way. So if I do that, I'll have the same. And also you don't want to get, you have ideas, you have some capability and energy. You don't want to get like that analysis paralysis or self-doubt where you get stuck or not wanting to try, or you have an idea and you tell your parents, and your parents are kind of naturally like, "Ooh, I don't know," and you want to read into that or be validated by them. And I had a nephew last month who had, he's in college and he's got some ideas and talking about AI and doing some work and maybe starting something entrepreneurial along those lines. And there's part of me that could easily take kind of a business idea he has and go, yeah, I don't know. There's all these things. And I stopped myself and was basically like, okay, I need to give him some constructive, supportive, positive energy, things to think about, and not put any cold water on it, because, the failure, the try and the failure is the ladder. And,
right. Yeah.
And so like you gotta fail, and you fail 7 times and you win on the 8th because you kept getting up. So,
right. Yeah.
And you're learning as you fail. So anyway,
but it's also a market feedback. Like that's why I think it's doing something is very important, but also being self-aware and learning from what the market actually tells you is even more important, because if you do something, you get out there and you like try something, and market gives you feedback. Do you like it a little bit? Do someone like I don't know if you want to put it on the screen. I've made that table like a long time ago. I just searched again. There's like how many like people are in the US, like 350 roughly. Like how many businesses are there? Like it's like 30 million, 36 million. Then I ask a simple question of like, how many of those businesses that are there have over 100K of annual profit? With 100K, you can sustain like 1-2 employees, or like one employee and like one owner of it. But that's already getting tight because you have to pay a lot. And so like that's like 2 million, 3 million. That's like a lot smaller. So like you're telling me like 93% of all businesses don't even break 100K in annual profits per year. That's crazy. And you have to think about, okay, how much easier it would be to launch a career that potentially gives you 100K a year versus you launching a business with, I don't know, 3-4 employees, with all the headache, with like the 10, 12, 13-hour days, and launching that to get 100K. So I like that path. I really think it's a path to be admired on, but it's also a path that's very hard, and I think that's why so few do it. But I think it's also then you have to be self-aware and listen to the market feedback. Do you actually enjoy what you're doing, and are you cut out for like having those like 7 different hats on and like slowly building that up? And it's actually never been easier to get market feedback, because now you have great AI tools, you have all those website builders and all those stuff that makes it super easy to launch a business, where all the administrative stuff gets a lot less on your burden than it was like 10 years ago, for example, 20 years ago. And so you can get some kind of product or service out there, you can get a website out there really quickly, and you can get really quickly market feedback of providing, let's say, one service, one product to like 10 people, and then see, do people even like it? Do those 10 people like it? And I like, if you have a service or product that you really like are passionate about, try one thing out, give it for free away to people and see if they actually like it, if they actually enjoy it and want to do something with that. If they don't even want it for free, like, it might not be such a great thing. But then try to ask for money for a thing. It's a whole different thing. And then like, okay, people are willing to pay for a service or product? If they are, if you find like 10 people, maybe try finding like 20 people. And hey, if you find 20 people, there's a higher likelihood that you actually get like 100 people. I think that's also how like Daniel started with the MicroSeed thing. He just like wasn't like Las Vegas the small test for that, of like, hey, I'm just like, I booked that booth, I'll get the MicroSeed there, I'll see what people think, and if people come back with positive or negative feedback, that's how you test the thesis, because your thesis are always wrong until proven right. So it's like the market will give you feedback. And it would have been a possibility that everyone came to the booth to Daniel and said, that's bullshit, never wants that, nobody wants that. And you would have said, you would have sold like 0 or like maybe like 2 or so. And then you're like, do I really want to start that business? Probably not, because I've invested money and like I got market feedback, but I don't know any stats from that day, but I remember you telling like, oh, there was like market feedback, people loved it, they liked it, they had all that questions and were interested in it, and the also the sales afterwards and all of those things. And then they're like, okay, I have proper market feedback to go to the next stage and making it a little bit bigger and see if it's actually a viable business. So I don't know.
Well, I love this chart, dude, because like, sorry to cut you off there, but like the Price's Law I was just talking about, like I've actually got it here. Price's Law states that 50% of the work or value in any given group or field is produced by the square root of the total number of participants. For example, in a company of 100 employees, roughly 10 people do half the work. And what's funny about that is you can take that same model and that exactly maps to this thing that you're looking at right here. And it continues scaling up. How many businesses do you have? Well, you know, what percentage, the square root of that business is how many are actually productive, right? And then the square root of that and the square root of that, it actually iterates out really well. So you can see like how many businesses actually end up in $100 million of annual profit. Like it's a fraction. It's a minuscule fraction of the people that start a business, which is a minuscule fraction of the total population. But what Jordan Peterson points out in his lecture is like, that minuscule fraction always repeats. It doesn't matter if you have a competitive trading anything, it's always the vast majority of the benefit is always going to accrue to the top 1%. Always. There's no other, like it always happens. It's a Pareto principle all the way up. It's Price's Law all the way up. It's this exact thing that you pointed out there all the way up. Always. In all of these competitive environments, that's always going to be the outcome. So you can't like tax your way through it. You can't like structure your way through it. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the academic thing is like, if you have an academic understanding of things, like you can avoid obvious foot guns, right? Like someone that comes along and goes, hey man, I want to start a golf club company. It's like, okay, well, the way you're going to do that is you're not going to invest a lot of money and you're going to put up a website and you're going to see if the market wants anything to do with a new golf club, because there are 10 billion places to get golf clubs, right? Like I want to start a golf club online business. Like, good luck with that, dude, because like right now, if you just go Google search golf clubs, like you're never going to rank ever. If you're like Bob in Santa Fe, New Mexico, who just started his golf club company, like it's just not going to happen, dude. So that's not to say that every person that comes up with a golf club won't find some way to market that golf club, but the likelihood of you coming out the other end of that being like the next Titleist or the next Ping or the next, you know, whatever is like functionally zero. Like you may as well not do that. So like an academic grounding and like if you've got an MBA, chances are good you're not going to make as many foot guns as a guy who just dropped out of high school, right? But to your point, like if you go, how hard is it to become a plumber? It's like, not too hard. Well, if you do a little overtime, how hard is it to get to 100K a year profit? You go, oh, that's pretty easy, dude. Like there's unlimited work for plumbers. You know, why wouldn't you do that? Because I want to be a businessman. It's like, well, you know, like you might want to consider that. Like Jordan Peterson's thing is like, if you're really truly a creative person, you really just have to make music or write books or do this or that and the other thing. So go find a way to make money first and then have a hobby because that is the rational course forward. It's like,
and you know, like you can have a 35 hour job in a week that pays you well, so you can even save something in Bitcoin to build a Nasdaq, and have another 20 hours designed to do your hobby thing. And if you do that, I didn't do that, but if you do that, you might actually find like, hey, this hobby thing pays me a little bit. And then it's like, okay, if your hobby thing pays you, let's say 50% already, with just 20 hours a week, what your other thing pays you, maybe I'm very careful here, but might be that this is enough market feedback to say, hey, what if I put not 20 hours in, but like 60 hours in and go full on in plastering? Maybe I can actually make a living. And then like, okay, I can make a living. Then you like slowly level up. Maybe like you can actually have employees and all of those things. But collect first market feedback for your product and service, and also for yourself if you actually like that kind of life. I think people underestimate the headaches and like I had a simpler life before. And for the first 2 years I made less money, more headaches, more stress, and it was just horrible. But I really have to get going now.
Sure, man. I'm glad you could join us today, man. It was great to have you on.
Absolutely. And it was really cool talking with you guys. I'll take a 1 month break because there's so much happening, and then I'll join you guys again from a different point in Austria.
Nice. Same background though.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining, man. That was great. Great conversation. Yeah. I was thinking about, when MicroSeed was just new and we just barely had, the website and some product. And that Vegas conference was a real litmus test of in our heads, we had these vague ideas that, okay, if we sell 20, that's some market feedback of, this may not be the thing we thought it was.
Right.
And if we sell 35, 40, it may have legs, but it's kind of just breaking even. And it's like, maybe, not sure. And then so when we sold out with what we had, and it was, 70 or 80 kits,
85, yeah.
it was like, okay. So I kind of had a sense of it after day one, and we were just having dinner after like a long day, and we are both kind of smoked, and it was like, what just happened? Like, I think this is a thing.
Yeah.
So we got some very quick feedback and then it was validated again on day 2. Okay, so now what?
Yeah. We have a thing now. Yeah.
We have a thing. So let's just keep going.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting about like what Robin was just saying, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about. Like, there are 2 ways to start a business, really. One way is a smart way. The other way is what we did. Right. And, you could argue that the way we did it is also a smart way to do things, right? But if you're a modern day businessman, you don't go bootstrap something, right? Like the downside risk to bootstrapping is like enormous, and it usually results in business collapse, right? Almost universally, people that try and bootstrap their way through a company run into like all the problems that Robin was just pointing out. Like, his first 2 years were a nightmare, right? Because it's hard. It's really, 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 really hard to like stabilize something like that when you don't have any money. So when people are talking about finding a market fit for your business, what that means is you go find people with money and convince them that there's a market fit, right? But they are the market. The investors are the market that you need to test. So can you present an idea in a coherent fashion with a coherent plan that makes these people think they'll make some money if they invest in you? Like, that's literally how you start a business in America. Like, if I wanted to start a car company tomorrow and I tried to bootstrap it, I'm going to get fucked. Pardon my French, but I'm going to get railroaded like in 2 seconds flat. Elon Musk did not start Tesla by walking out and going, I think I can build an electric car in my backyard and let's see what happens, right? Like, he went and found market fit first. He found investors first, and then he prototyped a thing and he launched it in kind of a unique way, but he launched it, based on sort of web-based principles rather than like, like light industry type principles. Like, if the guy who is working his way up the ladder at Ford decides to make a new car company, first thing he's going to go do is seek like investors, and they're going to try and tool up a factory, and they're going to come up with all these reasons why they need to dump, half a billion dollars into building out capacity, and then try and market their car because this guy had a great business proposal. And there are no business proposals that are going to rise to that level, which is why we don't have any new car manufacturers. So Elon Musk went a different route. He exploited the only realistic path to launching a car company, and even that, he almost went bankrupt. Like, he was hours away from like, well, this is all done. Oops, probably shouldn't have done that.
Big risk many times, yeah.
An enormous risk. Thanks, Johnny. And I like what you said. Your passion has to override your common sense, 1000%. Like, but that's the thing is, like, when your nephew comes to you and goes, hey, I want to start a business. Like, my nephew came to me many times, said, hey, I want to be a musician. I said, go for it. Like, 100%. Don't look back. Just try it. Just do it. You're going to learn more from doing it than you will from thinking about it for the next 10 years. And people go, that's such reckless advice. And I go, well, the problem is you'll never know all the pitfalls. Like, I understand many of the pitfalls that I talk about at length because I've suffered through them, like, personally, right? And so to get to that place requires some sort of struggle, right? And like Brett talks about this in the book as well. Like, they paint this idea of like struggle is the way to knowledge and, wisdom and this and that and the other thing. But it's not like as long as you struggle, you're going to win. It's like, that's not what it boils down to. And when my thing, like, if I was talking to your nephew, it would be like, go start it, dude. Hell yeah. Run with it. Because you're going to find out within a year, you're going to go, oh, oh, there's way more to this. Oh, this is something that's a lot harder. There's a lot more nuance to this. There's a lot more detail that I didn't really contemplate. And if you are adaptable and if you're creative, which is like, as Jordan Peterson puts it, that's a curse. Being a creative person is a curse. And people say, oh, well, I'm creative. But if you define creativity as this is a novel thing that's useful to others, then the range of actual creative thinkers drops to nearly zero. Because lots of people, if you go in a room and say, hey, like, think of all the different ways you could use a brick. And what you're going to get, if you walked into a room of 100 people, you're going to get 100 responses that are the same. So you could use it for a doorstop, right? Like that's, but out of that 100, you're going to get maybe 20 that are kind of unique and not particularly useful. Maybe one person in that entire group comes up with something to go, oh, I never really thought of using a brick that way. That's interesting. And that would actually be really helpful. That's rare, but that's a curse, man, because like you're always looking at the world that way. And the likelihood of you succeeding with that novel, useful idea is functionally zero. So you're like always seeking the novelty. You're always creating new things, and you have almost no likelihood of monetizing your output. So it's a dreadful thing to impose on somebody. So when someone says, "Oh my God, I'm a a really creative person," I go, "Oh God, I'm really sorry to hear that." It's not a blessing; it's a curse. And what was this? That's how I started a successful
comedy. That's where the rubber can really hit the road too. Things like the what do I say? Like being on stage, being in theater, getting into entertainment type industry where there's an audience and then there's you, or maybe some of you, but the interface is right there, right in your face. That's where you find out fast.
Oh yeah.
Talk about feedback, market feedback. It's like
comedy is
now. Here we go.
That's
Cheers
why almost nobody does
silence.
it.
Yeah. I mean,
almost no one pursues comedy for that reason, because
they're all going to laugh at you.
Yeah, they're laughing at you most of the time. And if they're not laughing at you, they're disgusted by you, right? So like to put yourself on that stage is like tough, right? But what people don't realize is like when they see Jerry Seinfeld and they go, "Oh, Jerry Seinfeld's so funny because blah, 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 blah." What they don't see is the 20 years he spent refining that act, that bit, those bits, every single day that he was writing a new joke that sucked. And all the people getting up on the stage and just to a flat reception from 10 people and 9 of them are other comedians waiting for their turn. Like it's brutal. But if you can rise through it, like you have, like Fritz said, you have immediate feedback. Like it is unmistakable feedback. Are they laughing? Yeah. Then you're doing it right. Are they not laughing? Then you suck. Full stop. Like there's no in between. You can try and talk yourself into why all these people are so dumb. They don't understand your brilliant comedy and yada, yada.
You don't understand.
Right. But that won't fly. You can make that argument if you start a restaurant. You can be like, well, people just don't appreciate good food. But the reality is your food sucks, your restaurant sucks, your experience sucks, something about your restaurant sucks, and you can't see it because your ego won't let you. And comedy is, I think, one of the purest art forms because it's brutal. It's a kick in the balls the first time you walk out on the stage and go, "Hey, here I am. I got all these jokes." And people are just like, and you go, "Oh, I thought I had some jokes." Nice, dude. That's huge, man.
Oprah Winfrey. Holy cow, man. That takes some.
Where can we see your bits, dude?
I was going to say, where do we see some of this stuff? And even the big names, the big comedians, the names we know, they will bomb sometimes randomly. They'll just, whether it's the audience or their day, or they're a little distracted or they're tired or whatever. It's just a vibe. And there are days where the big boys bomb. And instead of being like, "Oh my God, I'm not what I thought I was. Maybe I'm not cut out for this." They're just like, "Oh, I bombed."
Yeah, that sucked. Oh God, they were throwing bananas at me. Holy shit, Johnny, you're huge, dude. I might have been watching your comedy back in the day. I'm a big comedy fan. Yeah, who are you, Johnny?
I got to find out. No, I'm interested.
Drop a link, dude.
Talking about
YouTube.
Yeah, connecting like market feedback and collision of worlds in the belief machine. I saw the most surreal, amazing post on X in a long time. I'm going to throw here. Saylor after the fork, he put out kind of this general statement.
Yeah.
And when I saw Luke post this as a response, it was like, holy crap. are on different planets here.
Yeah.
And also, I realized we didn't just fork off, we lost the plot in such a deep way that we're not even talking the same language anymore. And yeah, I found that amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, that's part of the problem I have with that mantra, right? Like, people call themselves monetary maxis and this kind of stuff. I'm just like, dude, like, I get the impulse, right? Because like the soundbite makes sense. You go, yeah, money. I'm pro money. But like there was a Bitcoin Boomers episode, and they had posted a clip, and it was like Larry Lepard and Bob Burnett and what's his face, George Bodine, and they were talking about, you know, BIP 110 and the split. And Bob Burnett is a miner with Ocean, I believe, right? But somewhere in the conversation, Larry Lepard said, well, you know, I'm not really a software guy, so I can't really speak coherently on like the software stuff. But I agree we shouldn't have this spam shit on there. We should get rid of that. And I saw that and I was like, that encapsulates exactly that entire debate around op return and knots and all that kind of stuff. Is I don't really understand Bitcoin, but I don't like spam. And it compresses so much into this idea that it permits people to unquestioningly, reflexively respond to things that they don't understand and then feel very justified in doing it. Because if I said, hey, do you want spam phone calls, Fritz? You'd go, no, of course not. Do you want spam email? You don't like spam email, do you? And you go, of course not. You go, do you want spam on your blockchain? You go, of course not. Because they sound like the same thing. You go, spam, spam, spam. You have like this pre-baked idea of what that means and how to combat it, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing is immediate, right? But what people are calling spam on the blockchain is not universally held out as spam to the people doing it. They see a lot of value in the thing they're doing. Like, they are not people that are just blanket, you know, spamming the network with a bunch of garbage that nobody wants. They have a market for things that people want. So I don't like that use of the block space. Let me be very, very clear. I don't think that is the ideal use case.
Don't like it.
I don't like it. So let's be very, very clear about that. I don't like that use. But I think just narrowing it down to like, I don't understand how the software stack works. I don't understand how consensus works. I don't understand how data propagation works, but I don't like spam. Therefore, I'm for knots. You go, ugh, that's a problem, dude, because you're compressing. I don't understand things. There's one thing I don't like. Therefore, I will make impactful, meaningful decisions on my financial well-being based on I don't understand and I don't like. And that's a toxic combination. You can't operate in the world that way effectively. What that makes you is a lemming. What that makes you is the blue pill. What that makes you is the guy who just goes, well, I'll just follow the thing that sounds right, even though I don't understand the thing we're talking about. And that's true in politics. That's true in left-right politics. That's true in, you know, literally everything, business, art, creativity, all of it. You go, I don't understand the thing I'm pissed about, but I'm just pissed anyway. And you go, well, then you're going to make bad decisions based on that. You're always going to be following the wrong crowd because you have no coherent way to navigate that space. And the only way to do it is to embrace epistemic uncertainty. And to do that, it puts you in sort of a psychological crisis because you're always holding conflicting information. And most people can't settle with that. They just can't sit in and go, okay, I can deal with the fact that I don't really know anything. And I'm still going to take action anyway. That's the part, because if you just settle into, I don't understand anything, then you become, you know, nihilistic and you just kind of go, there's no point in anything. And you don't want to end up like suicidal, right? So you still have to exist in the world. And the best you can do is kind of be willing to update your model as you go. But you also have to be, you know, humble enough to recognize that, hey, I don't know everything here. And it's probably dangerous to have a really strong opinion about something I don't really understand. Immigration policy, economics, money, banking, fucking anything, any domain that is deeply contested and deeply thought about is not a domain where you should comfortably be arriving at really strong, firm conclusions about something, right? Unless you've done the work, and doing the work is enormously taxing. Like, it's an enormous burden to sit down and think through a problem. Like, it's one thing to read a book, it's another thing to study the book. It's one thing to think about a problem, it's another thing to unpack, challenge, and theorize within a problem. Like, completely different modes of operation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a frustrating thing to realize. Like, people that very firmly believe they are deeply red pilled are actually deeply blue pilled, and are probably going to stay that way for a long, long time, and will never realize it, and will be very comfortable like mocking others for not getting what they think, and not mocking others for what they believe. And they can become so concentrated in that thought that they end up forking off and having a little bubble of just nothing but confirmation bias, right? Like, just like you're watching it happen in real time right in front of us in a group that we care about. You just go, wow, that is a crazy thing to watch unfold and unpack right before our eyes. But the vast majority of the people in that space, I don't think truly understand what they're tackling, what they're fighting, or why. They just have adopted the slogan mindset, and they're ride or die on the slogan. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, it can fall into being like red on the outside, but kind of inherently blue on the inside. And you want to be like truth seeking and curious and learn, but maintain that mental flexibility, and then not fall into a nihilism of, well, we just can't know things. We can't know. And so whatever, nothing means anything. Bob Burnett, I think he's with Barefoot Mining, which, he and that company are really quite based Bitcoin. We're doing, good quality, clean Bitcoin mining against all this, the opportune type garbage stuff, like philosophically. But when it boiled down to it, they were sort of maybe presumed like, hey, you might signal for the BIP 110. And I think on that podcast that you mentioned, and I only heard a snippet of it where he was like, we looked at it and thought about it, but honestly, we couldn't. I mean,
Right.
we're not going to fork off. We're pro Bitcoin, and to signal and go down that path, like we did research months ago, playing it out, looking at the numbers, and it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I mean, the way we were looking at it as well, just being like, this is not going to happen. And ultimately, let's say it did happen. Does that really solve what we're trying to fix and what Bitcoin is faced with?
Nope.
Not really. No. I mean, it's a response, but they're looking at it at a different broad picture of what Bitcoin is, what Bitcoin does, how we use it, and how we want to protect it. And he's like, we were not going to fork off. So he didn't. And that was interesting to hear from him. So.
Well, I mean, it was obvious to anybody that wasn't in the bubble, and that's the sort of weird thing about that epistemic posture. Because right now, like, I posted that, what was the little clip I had posted? I can't remember what it was, but, a friend of ours kind of reached out and was like, what, are you trying to, like, get run out of town or something like that? And I thought that was very telling, because it was like, that's kind of a problem in any intellectual space, where if you are not allowed to say something that violates the tribal norms and you will get ostracized because of it, then that tribe is a dangerous tribe to be part of, right? Like, if they're not willing to unpack their narratives and deal with reality as reality exists, then you've got a sort of an interesting space to be participating in at that point, because you've now shut off conversation that doesn't agree with your priors. And the problem with sticking to priors is you don't want to be that's how lemmings run off the end of a cliff. Their prior says, if I follow the group, I'm safe. If I follow the group, I'm safe. If I follow the group, I'm safe. Splat. Oops. Well, all my priors up to that moment told me this was the safest course of action. Just follow what the group is saying. Don't step out of line. Don't stop. Don't question. And anybody that does, immediately laugh at them, mock them, ostracize them, demonize them, start calling them names, start doing this, start doing that. And then meanwhile, all those people are going, hey, no, there's a cliff. And they go, we don't see a cliff. We are lemmings. We will go. And then you end up running off the cliff. And I go, that is by definition is about blue-pilled as you can possibly be.
We are still on solid ground. It's the cliff and everyone up there that fell.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'm seeing the frame around it is like, somehow Bitcoin has forked itself off. We are still true Bitcoin.
Well, they're already over the cliff. That's the problem. They're on their way down to the ground. And so you go, well, what do you say to these people? Like, if you're just watching, like, there are people that have gone out and watched lemmings run off the edge of a cliff. Like, there's unlimited footage of this where they're just like, watch this. These things are just right over the edge. And they don't, and it's like, what about that? That's kind of a trip. Yeah, exactly. I'd never joined a club. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the odd thing about it. Like, I have very deep convictions about what Bitcoin is, what it's doing, and why. And I didn't arrive at it because I read, 2 chapters out of some fucking influencer book, right? Like, I arrived at those conclusions after decades of study, not just like, well, yeah, fucking Fiat bad, Bitcoin good. That's where I'm going now. It's like, well, and even there, I had to do like it's continually challenging my thesis as I go. It's not just like some settled thing. I have what I think are defensible statements about Bitcoin, right? Where I can go, if you really unpack this, if you really steel man the shit out of it and you go, what is Bitcoin? I go, these are things that are observable to me right now. Bitcoin is, yeah, look at them go. Bitcoin is property, right? Bitcoin is a non-sovereign granted right of exclusion to valuable property that is extraordinarily robust. That is about as clear a statement as you can make. And I don't think you could argue, like, you can steelman that for a long time. And it's like hard to defeat. Are we going to just do this?
No, I don't have to. I hadn't seen footage like that in a while, and I was entertaining.
But the thing I'm getting at is, like, if I present that to people and I go, well, I don't think it's going to ever rise to this aspirational goal that you've assigned to it and that you've put a lot of thought and effort into, the fact that shuts down any possibility of like looking at it a different way, I think is problematic. But it's shutting down like things like Saylor and Strategy and Strike and what they're doing or what they're trying to do. Or I guess Strike broke off from whatever 21. So, all that kind of stuff, you kind of go, well, what are these people really doing? And what does it mean for Bitcoin beyond your bubble? And it's sort of odd to see people not want to explore that more, because there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of, future returns on the line publicly, at least that's what they're saying. But behind the scenes, I kind of go, well, like, what's driving that thought process? Is it literally because you read 3 chapters out of the Bitcoin Standard and you listened to Broken Money as an audiobook while you were mowing the lawn and not really paying attention, and that is the source of your conviction? Or is it deeper than that? How deep have you looked? Have you steelmanned the thing that you were looking at? Have you really thought about what it means? Like people parrot commodity theory as if it's self-evident and axiomatic, but it's not. Like, it's a deeply contested idea, and there's a pretty substantial body of evidence that says that's not true. Like, that theory doesn't hold up to scrutiny. And so if that's the foundation of your worldview, you go, well, that's a problematic foundation. That's a very unstable foundation. So, where are you going to go with that? But I don't know, man. Yeah. It's a weird world, deeper than most people
and
think.
by trying to foster a kind of mental flexibility of learning with the monetary system and the angles of Bitcoin and the things on and around and adjacent to Bitcoin, that's what keeps me open-minded to understanding better the nature of strategy and what Saylor's doing and how you could say, oh, it's a flywheel off to the side doing its thing and it's not Bitcoin and you don't want to get involved with anything not Bitcoin. It is a phenomena that I find quite amazing that is going to be the way that the system does change and adjust. It's not going to be Bitcoin itself injecting directly. It's this other stuff on the side churning with that has all the rails and roots into the mainstream system. And it's going to be what drives so much around the real change that most everybody in the world will be interfacing with, experiencing in their lives and in the future.
Yeah.
So I
Well, I
find it
mean,
fascinating.
Yeah, in terms of a Bitcoin standard, quote unquote, I think, I think that's a reasonably grounded thought process, right? Because you can go, because I think it is pretty hard to question the idea that Bitcoin can exclude others from Bitcoin, right? Like if you have your private keys properly stored, it's properly generated, et cetera, for someone to take that away from you is really difficult without like bashing you about the head and forcing you to give up the words. If that's not possible, if you're somehow able to sequester yourself away where people can't physically attack you, how can they get your Bitcoin? They can't. That's an extraordinarily powerful aspect of property ownership. No one can take my property, period, full stop. You go, wow, that's kind of a big deal, right? So when you start thinking about what does that do to the property rights regime worldwide, go, well, it's different. There's no other property like that in the world that exists right now. So do you think that's going to have an impact? You go, yeah, probably. Like, sounds like it's probably going to have an impact on things. Like how that plays out in the world, I think is the open question. To prematurely assign a role to it that it can't, like it physically can't manifest. You physically can't do global trade on the base layer, like full stop, period. That's an observable reality, and it's really hard to argue against that. So people start twisting themselves into a pretzel saying like intermediaries and third parties and third party software and third party this and third party that, and therefore Bitcoin go, well, that's drifted from your core thesis already. Like you've already left your thesis behind in favor of, explanations that allow you to continue maintaining the fiction of a thesis. But core Bitcoin on the base layer is limited in what it can do. It's extraordinarily powerful as a property transfer mechanism. It's extraordinarily incompatible with a monetary base layer system, right? Because if you're talking about it as a monetary base layer, like I just wrote in my article, you've got two problems with this. I don't think anybody's read this article. I don't think anyone.
The most recent one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But to go, like, here you go. If a state persistently demands units from the population and retains more than it returns, its share of the fixed stock keeps rising. There is no monetary magic that gets around this. With an absolutely fixed supply, a state that continuously taxes in the unit, Bitcoin, while running a net surplus, eventually accumulates the thing everyone else needs in order to satisfy the next round of obligations, right? So taken to the limit, the state eventually holds all the Bitcoin. And like I write right after that, obviously you can spend them back out, but now notice what has happened. Fixed supply has not eliminated monetary management. It has merely moved the problem. Instead of managing how many units exist, the fiscal authority has to manage how the fixed stock circulates so that the population continues to have access to the units the state itself is demanding. So if the state goes, hey, we accept the Bitcoin standard thesis, we want all taxes paid in Bitcoin. You go, what happens then? That becomes a huge problem for the Bitcoin thesis, right? And if it doesn't create compulsory demand, if it continues operating as its sub-routine of a sub-monetary network that isn't actually the Bitcoin standard, where everything is actually being denominated in Bitcoin, then you go, if let's suppose taxes, wages, debts, and ordinary prices remain denominated in dollars while Bitcoin continues appreciating against that, why would you ever spend the Bitcoin? Like if I can buy groceries with dollars that I know are going to evaporate next week, why would I spend my Bitcoin on the same thing if I have access to the dollars? I'm going to get rid of the dollars that are evaporating. I'm never going to want to get rid of the Bitcoin. So when people say Bitcoin is money, I go, how reconcile those two problems coherently? Let me hear a coherent explanation for how that works. And I'll go, okay, cool. But I haven't heard that argument yet. Every time I bring these points up to anybody that calls themselves a monetary maxi or a Bitcoin maxi or whatever, they immediately go, you don't understand. You just don't get Bitcoin. You don't understand money, sound money, hard money. They provide me a lot of like tropes, but they don't have anything to go, well, here's an answer to your query. This is how this works. And even when they come up with that answer, I go, okay, well, what about this? What about this? And there's a very short chain of questions where they run out of answers and they just get mad. And you go, okay, well, then conversation over, I guess. But rather than going, oh, maybe there's a hole in my thesis, they go, oh, this guy's a fucking dick. He's an asshole. He's a shitcoiner. He's a fucking baboon. He doesn't understand Bitcoin. He doesn't understand. He doesn't get it. He's this, he's that. He's a fake Bitcoin maxi. He's not, so it goes to this moral framing, this, tribal framing, this in-group, out-group thinking, but it never tackles the problem. So I go, well, I mean, that's, if you operate in that zone, then you're subject to the whims of that zone, full stop. You're subject to the rules of the matrix, full stop. You are buried in your blue pill lane, and until you can red pill yourself, which I don't think people can do as a general rule, I think you remain stuck, which is unfortunate, because Bitcoin is an amazing technology that is underappreciated for the wrong reasons, I think.
Yeah, I think ultimately the role that Bitcoin plays is not what people getting into Bitcoin presume it is or will be. And had you heard of this, Nolan?
No, but it sounds fascinating. I'm gonna
physiological engines, money and economy. Yeah, your most recent writing, and it's related to stuff we've talked about for a long time, but the nature of what money is and how Bitcoin works. So how Bitcoin interfaces with that system. And people will say the word money, and we're thinking often like medium of exchange,
right?
With features of savings technology.
Or value,
What Bitcoin is really becoming is more and more of a savings technology with more of a property right.
Yeah, exactly right, Johnny. Yeah. Questioning authority makes the monkeys angry. It really does. Like, you cannot, and it doesn't matter where that authority originates. If the authority originates in the central bank and Bitcoiners question it, it makes normies angry. If a Bitcoiner questions the authorities in Bitcoin, it makes the Bitcoiners angry. But the point is it's the challenge to authority that's invoking it. It's not the academic question that's being presented. And that's the sort of direct rail that makes it tough. Like we were just talking the other day about the 21 million cap, right? And like, I can see, like, in the reactions, just like, oh, I don't, nope, don't want to. Like,
I'm not ready for this conversation.
Exactly, but that's the reaction I'm talking about. Is like, because the question I'm posing is not, should we eliminate the 21 million cap? And I have been very clear, like, I don't think that's a good idea. And there's reasons why I think that, right? It's not just because that's what it says and that's the rules. It's like, no, there's, like, that can cause all kinds of downstream problems the other side. Even if you thought it was a good idea to support tail emissions and, the security budget and blah 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 blah, it could fundamentally ruin Bitcoin, like, just because that's what it's been sold on, 21 million, not 21 million unless we changed our mind, right? And like all the people that were talking about the BIP 110 chain, they go, that sets a really bad precedent. You go, well, there's a small group of people that really don't like something, so we can change the protocol on a whim. That's dangerous. That fundamentally fractures what Bitcoin is. A large part of its value proposition goes away. Like, if my property right can be violated, then it doesn't hold as a property right. Like, if BIP 110 chain had become the dominant chain, I would have gone, I'm done with Bitcoin. Like, because the property that I value the most, non-sovereign granted right of exclusion, valuable property, has just been evaporated because these people say, well, we can violate your property rights anytime we disagree with something you're doing. I go, well, that sounds a lot like the government to me, and I've already got that, and I at least have a court that I can adjudicate that. With you, it's just your sovereign whim. That's no good. So to me, when people argue like, this is the real Bitcoin, blah, 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 I go, what you've done is you've just decided you want a new authority in your life, and you want a new authority governing your monetary life. And I go, well, you may as well just stick with the one you got, because at least that one, what they're doing and why. And there's a lot of layers to how they're making those decisions. Like, it's not just one guy. It's not King of America that's sitting there going, this week we are going to have 10% debasement, and this week you will do. It's not by that kind of dictate. Like, there's all kinds of layers that are going into the daily monetary decisions. But if a small group can just break off and decide they don't like something, and then they can change the protocol, and then if that protocol doesn't do what they want, they can change the protocol again. You go, well, do I have any right to my property? These guys can just willy-nilly change the protocol anytime something happens on they don't like. Yes. Well, okay, then that's not a non-sovereign granted right of exclusion. That is just some software developer that's decided he understands how the world should work now, and I got to follow his mandates. That's you've just recreated fiat in a decentralized quote unquote form under a different authority. The thing that makes Bitcoin amazing is that there is no authority. There is no governing authority deciding what happens here. And what those guys ran headlong into is that very fact. It is a fact that you can't just come in and scream and yell and demand things and then the protocol changes around you. Like, it's just not how it works. That's what makes Bitcoin powerful. What they're destroying is not whether monetary purity or not. What they're destroying is the very thing that makes Bitcoin valuable to begin with. You can't fuck with it willy-nilly. You can't just change it. You can't just release the 21 million cap. You can't just change consensus rules. You can't just do XYZ. And the problem for most of the plebs is they conflated a policy change, op return, with consensus change. And I think that's still muddy in most people's minds. They don't understand the difference between the two, and they don't understand the trade-offs. So I don't know, man. It is dangerous, dude. Yeah, I've actually got him on the Google search, Mr. Nolan.
He's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, that guy. Oh, fascinating.
Count BTC. I
know.
I recognize him. I didn't realize he had YouTube.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to check him out though.
Huh.
Thanks,
yeah,
Johnny.
no, that's cool. Yeah, thank you.
I see his LinkedIn here.
Oh, I haven't gotten into LinkedIn for a little while, but
I don't know. It's the first thing that showed up was Nolan.
Oh, I see.
New York, United States. But CoinDesk events, CoinDesk consensus. Yeah, I'll check this guy out for sure. See what he's got to say. Always fascinated to hear different perspectives on things.
Always learning.
Always learning. Always be learning. ABL.
Awesome. Well,
we're rounding up the corner on 2 hours again, man. We're getting into the dense long form formats here.
Yeah, so much to say, so many things to think about, so many things to learn. And I'm going to finish the Belief Machine book, if not this weekend, this coming week. So looking forward to it. And then, we'll talk more about all that. But
yeah, looking forward to it. Johnny, is always great to see you, sir. I don't know if Brett's still here or anyone else is still here. Thank you for joining. If you left, I totally understand. Once Robin leaves, it gets back to just two old folks about stuff. But thank you all for joining. Johnny, I'm glad you're on the mend. I'm glad you gained some height, got your frame straightened out, got the alignment checked, got some new brake pads put on.
We'll be back doing stand up on stage soon.
Yeah,
cool. All right, I'm gonna play your video for MicroSeed.
All right, let's see how it does.
All right, here we go.
In 2013, a computer engineer accidentally threw away a hard drive which contained 8,000 Bitcoin.
I don't know this guy, but I feel really bad for him. I can't even imagine what it feels like to wake up one day and realize that you just, threw $1 billion in the trash. If you don't know the story, back in 2013, this guy was a computer engineer. He had mined himself a bunch of Bitcoin. He had about 8,000 of them laying around. He stored all that wallet information on a hard drive. He thought he had transferred that wallet information to a new hard drive, and then he threw the old one out. Turns out he didn't. Oops. I'd just like to point out, if this guy had had a MicroSeed back in the day, he could have put all those seed words on a single 32 millimeter titanium washer. This is grade 5 titanium. It's fireproof, it's waterproof, and it comes with every single MicroSeed, along with stainless steel washers that you can get in any hardware store. And we even give you nylon washers in case you just might need to sneak past one of them metal detectors. It's safe to store, it's easy to hide, and it's just one more layer of protection to make sure that you never get separated from your Bitcoin stack. Stay humble, stack sats. Make sure you take self-custody, and by all means, be sure to back up that seed phrase. Don't be the guy that just threw out $1 billion.